everybody for joining. I'm delighted to have you join us today. My name is Claire O'Connor. I'm a student recruitment specialist with RCSI's student recruitment team. And I'm really delighted to be joined by 4 of our current pharmacy students who are here to answer any questions that you might have about the programme, about studying at RCSI, about the application process, etc. So without any further ado, we'll get started. So I'm delighted to be joined today, as I said, by 4 students. We have Robert, who is a second-year pharmacy student. Velin is in 3rd year, and Sarah and Franco are both in 4th year, which is the second to last year of the MPharm degree. So what I'll do is, while I'm waiting for questions to be added to the chat box, and I do invite you to pop any questions that you have into the chat box, I will ask the guys a couple of questions just to get started and just so that you can get to know them a little bit better. So Velin, I'll start with you if that's okay. I'm wondering how you ended up studying pharmacy and what was important to you when choosing a university in which to study pharmacy.
So I took a really kind of straightforward but ordered approach. I suggest that everyone kind of does a little checklist, prioritizing the most important stuff. So the first thing that I had down was it must be biology and chemistry focused. So for me, it was most important to study a course that I'm interested in. So in secondary school, I was good at maths, chemistry, and biology, but I enjoyed biology and chemistry the most. So that was number 1. Number 2 was it must be human health focused, human disease focused, treatment of diseases. In other words, patient focused. So that eliminated a lot of the science courses that were detached from the patient sort of aspect. And third I had down was it must guarantee a job in that field after graduating. Another thing would be maybe location, but I didn't really mind where it was. So that's how I ended up picking pharmacy. It just ticked everything for me anyway. It'll be different for everyone. And so that's pretty much it.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that insight. And Robert, so you're in 2nd year pharmacy now. So can I ask you, what was your first year like? Can you tell us a little bit about your first year experience and how you found the transition from secondary school into university?
Yeah, so I joined actually pharmacy in RCSI during the pandemic. So it was kind of a very different experience for me altogether, starting online, but a great one. Definitely not, I wouldn't say challenging transition. It's a different change, same from going from primary to second level kind of, but really supported by the college. I was very apprehensive, especially starting online during the pandemic, but I think the small class size and actually getting in during the first semester to make friends really helped. Of course, it can be overwhelming at the start, kind of going to this new learning, new studying style, but you really settle in very quickly and everyone around really does support you. As I said, yeah, the small class size, it kind of suits me, and the overall small college size really suited me, and was the reason I chose RCSI, just because I would hate to go into a much larger setting. I think it matched kind of the second level setting, so it was really transition in that sense. You're not going into this massive campus with thousands of students. You're in and you get to know everyone in the different courses, which is like amazing to have friends across all years in different courses, which is really helpful. But yeah, I definitely don't think it was too challenging. It's overwhelming at the start, but nothing that causes any anxiety or fear. But of course, there's so many support networks there, such great friend groups that are made really quickly during the year, and clubs and societies also help. Joining them, putting yourself out there, just getting the most out of your college experience, especially during a pandemic, which is very hard. It's just little things like turning on your camera on a Zoom call or showing up to different online events. They all really made a difference for me starting in first year. But yeah, no, I had a really good first year, I have to say, despite it being online for a good portion of the year. But no, really good.
That's great, and thank you for that insight, and great to hear, you know, that it did go well for you despite obviously the challenges posed by COVID. Sarah, you're quite well into the course now. You're in your second to last year. Can I ask how you're finding 4th year and how the placement side of things is going for you?
Yeah, so in 4th year you do placement from September to Christmas. The place I actually was in asked me to start in July, so I did like this full 6 months, which was great. I was doing my placement with an American health insurance company, so something really different, quite random, which I absolutely loved though, because I think a lot of the time you hear, okay, you're studying pharmacy, you might end up in community, maybe hospital, maybe industry, but there's actually so many more options than that. So I really loved doing my placement somewhere different so I could see that side of things. So my team kind of within the company, we were really just researching drugs, trying to see if they should be covered on our insurance policies or not. And we worked really closely with another team of pharmacists who went into business meetings with the big pharmaceutical companies, and they basically just negotiated deals to make sure that they could get medicines cheaply for our patients. So although it was something really like a different setting, it was still kind of the same principles that you learn from day one, that you're always putting the patient first, trying to get most affordable healthcare for the patients and just easy, accessible transitions into healthcare for them. So it was really good seeing that those same principles and values apply no matter where you are. I got to learn about the American healthcare system, which is very, very complicated, but it was really cool to see it. Yeah, so I loved it. It was great to see just some of the more non-traditional routes that are available to us.
Brilliant. That sounds really fascinating. I'd say it was really interesting. So thank you for that insight. That's great. And Franco, you're also in fourth year, so coming kind of towards the end of the program. Can I ask what you're looking forward to most about your last year and a half at RCSI?
I'm most excited about going back to campus. I'm supposed to be starting back in about 5 days' time. So I'm really looking forward to that, considering I haven't been on campus in quite a while, and because I had the option to do everything online. And another thing is that with going back, we're doing a physically blended learning, distance learning. So we'll be doing some of it online, some of it physically. So it's going to be quite interesting. Mostly, I'm just looking forward to starting fifth year. The placement there is 8 months long, and after finishing my last placement just in December, I'm really looking forward to the next one. It's just one step closer to graduating.
Absolutely, you're nearly there. Well, I hope the return to campus goes really well. I'm sure you are looking forward to catching up with people in person. So we have a few questions coming in now, and please feel free to keep popping them into the chat box so that we can ask them of the students that are with us today. So the first one I can see that has come into me here is where can you work other than inside a pharmacy when you graduate? So I think that's a really good question, because I think maybe sometimes people aren't aware of the range of career options available to those with a pharmacy degree. So Sarah, I see you have your hand up there. So yeah, if you're happy to take that one, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, mostly you would hear about you can work in community pharmacy, which is brilliant. Like every small village in Ireland has community pharmacy, so loads of job opportunities. You could work in hospitals all over the country. Industry is a really big one in Ireland at the minute, so working in Pfizer or AbbVie, or there's loads of places around Ireland. And then I think this fourth year placement just showed us that there's so many research opportunities. Even within the college, a lot of our classmates were doing research projects in the science labs, things like that was cool. And yeah, some are completely random, where I was like health insurance, wouldn't have thought of that. There's like consulting, there's so many different options, which I want to broadcast because we don't really hear about them. We don't really get a chance to hear about them in college. So lots of choices for you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I just think it's, there's such a wide range, and particularly as Ireland is such a hub for pharmaceutical companies, I think there's so many, opportunities, and it's just a really fantastic degree. So the other question that I have here is wondering, do you have many dispensing modules or classes? So they're just wondering about the dispensing element of things and learning about that. So maybe Velin or Franco, just wondering if you might have an insight into that in terms of the dispensing side of the teaching.
Yeah, so in first year, semester one, there wouldn't be too much dispensing because it's kind of like the basics. So kind of like basic biology, basic chemistry. But after that, every module is going to have huge focus on pharmacology and the drugs. And then after that, the one teaching element is dispensing. So say dispensing, patient counseling. So I think roughly every week you can have 1 to 2 patient focused labs, they're called. So that's where there's like your lecture in that module. And then you have like pharmacy techs or people doing their masters as well. and they basically, it's like kind of like a role play. They're the patient, and you get a prescription. You have to find the errors, you have to prepare it, label it, and then counsel the patient on it and answer questions. So that's maybe once, twice a week.
Brilliant, thank you for that. Thanks for that insight into, you know, the workings of the program and what it's like on a day-to-day basis. That's fantastic. So there's a question that's come in here from Eve, just wondering, do pharmacy students have to take the HPAT? So that's a no. So the HPAT is for those applying to medicine. The other question is coming in here, and Sarah, I might go back to you on this one just because it's again about pharmacy careers. And it's just wondering which of the jobs associated with pharmacy most interacts with their patients besides community pharmacies. So I guess this person's interested in you know, interacting with patients and meeting with them, etc.
Probably hospital would be the next one. You have opportunities if you're working in a hospital pharmacy to actually get onto the wards. So to do your ward rounds and to like chat with the patients, have a look at their medical records and things like that. So I would imagine that's the one that's next to community pharmacy. But even if you're not face to face with them, you're still always thinking about them as the end user of your product, and you're still thinking about them a lot, even if you're not seeing them.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, I keep putting myself on mute so that I'm not making noise while you're speaking. So there are a couple more questions coming in here, and thank you for that, Sarah. I think this one tends to come up a lot, and I'll throw it out to the floor. Is chemistry important when studying pharmacy? I know that's one that comes up quite often. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump in. Yeah, Robert, I see your hands up there.
Yeah, so obviously it's a requirement to study pharmacy in RCSI to have chemistry at Leaving Cert. It is kind of a lot of focus on chemistry, but as Velin said, in semester 1 of first year, it's kind of a general introduction. You're slowly recapping on Leaving Cert material. It does get a bit challenging. It's one of the more challenging aspects of the course, but it's kind of integrated into the systems-based approach, which I found really helpful. Kind of learning the chemistry of drugs associated with a certain system in the body. It links everything together very easily. A lot easier to learn all the content when it's kind of related across all your modules, across all the different kind of disciplines within the school. It's like important. It is an important aspect of pharmacy, of course, but it's not that it's very challenging. It will pop up across all 5 years, but it's not too challenging. As long as you have a kind of basic good understanding at Leaving Cert level, you should be fine.
Thanks so much for that, Robert. And actually that leads on really well to our next question I see that's come in about entry requirements. And there has been a change, just to advise. And so Robert, when you would have come in, chemistry was a requirement, but it's actually being changed for the September 2022 entry. So I will just go through the Leaving Cert entry requirements very briefly, but just to advise that this is all available on our website in quite a bit of detail. So we would encourage anyone today who's interested and wants to know a bit more about the entry requirements and the application process, definitely do check out our website because there's a ton of information on there. But just to confirm that as of so this year for entry in September 2022, applicants presenting an Irish Leaving Cert and school leaver applicants are required to present a minimum of 6 subjects, so 2 H5s and 4 06/H7s, and that's to include Irish unless you have an NUI exemption, English, maths, a lab science. So that can be chemistry, biology, physics, chemistry, or agricultural science, a third language, and another recognized subject. So again, those are listed on our website for anyone that is interested. And you'll find more information as well on, you know, websites like Qualifax, CAO, etc. So the next question, this is a good one. Would it be hard to find a job with this degree? So I think the simple answer is no, but you guys might have a better insight than myself. Maybe Franco, do you think it would be hard to find a job with a pharmacy degree? Someone's asking. Definitely
not. I remember it depends on what level you're at so far. So in first year, I managed to find my first job after a day of looking, and I got quite lucky there. But I was only a healthcare advisor. So I think after first year, you're at a good level to just advise on what medications to take over the counter. You might not know much about the interactions, but then again, you could always ask your pharmacist who'd be right next to you At the moment, I think I've had about 4 different jobs in the last 3 years and in different stores. And I'm finally a technician now. So especially with after graduating, after your first 4 years, I think you're able to work as a technician without having to do any more qualifications. So I'm a technician at the moment. What I've been told is that there's always jobs for pharmacists. At the moment, there's also shortages in pharmacies. That's why locums at the moment, which are pharmacists who don't have a specific contract to a store, are in such high demand. So at the moment, I think there's several pharmacies just in Blanchardstown that are looking for locums at least 2 days a week. And this is from my own experience from talking to other pharmacists. I meet about like 6 new pharmacists every week, which is quite surprising. I was also told that the only time you'll have trouble getting an actual job is if there's like an, I don't know, economic crash, and then the jobs are very low paying, in which case someone wants to do them. But so far, it's really good.
Great, thank you so much for that insight. So there's another question coming in here, and I'm just eager that we try and answer as many as possible. So there's a question here: are doctors and pharmacists good friends in hospital settings? So I suppose one element of RCSI is the interprofessional education element, where you will study alongside students in the other disciplines like medicine or physiotherapy. So could I ask maybe one of you to comment on that a little bit, or your experience with that? Yeah, Velin, I see your hand is up there. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the question is more for college or just in general doctors in the working sort of environment, because 2 months ago, I was talking with one of the senior pharmacists in Tullamore Regional Hospital, and I asked them the very same thing. What's the working environment like when you're on rounds with, say, in the infection wards with microbiologists or doctors? And he said, generally in the hospital, there's a lot of disagreement on things, but at the end of it, you work together to basically provide the best treatment. But he did say that it is a good amount of stress in hospital, but it's like rewarding, because you just have to come up with one solution and that's it. So even if you disagree on something, you just have to compromise and work together. In the community, I think it's slightly less stressful because it's through phone as well, and the decisions are minor. They're not as huge importance than, to say, the infection wards or whatever. So but in college, you be making friends with people from physio, from medicine, from everywhere. So yeah, it's definitely good.
Thank you so much for that. That's really interesting that you've just been having a conversation similar to that. So that's great. Thank you. So the next question, I see a question here, just wondering, is the degree recognized in other countries? So again, short answer is yes. So, it's recognized across the EU. With countries maybe outside of Europe, there may be some additional exams you might have to take. But if you're wondering about a particular country and the recognition of the degree, you can feel free to get in touch with us at admissions@rcsi.ie, and we can look into that for you. So I'm just seeing if there's some more questions coming in here. There is a question, so just wondering if pharmacy students at RCSI access the simulation facilities. So I know, obviously, as you mentioned, you'd be spending time in the lab, but I'm not sure if you've had been spending time in the simulation facility. Maybe Sarah, you might chat on that as you're a bit further ahead in the program.
Yeah, we did. Mario, would I be right in saying we did
Brilliant.
it twice, the simulation rooms?
That's right, yeah. Twice.
Yeah, and they're really interesting. So you go in and it's kind of like a robot patient, and you're given a scenario and you go into the room and it's like a set up as a hospital, and you have to just figure out what's wrong with them. And yeah, it's like good fun, but it's a really interesting way of studying and getting tested.
Fantastic, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. That's great to hear. There's a question here from a student who is in transition year at the moment, and they're going to be going on their work experience soon. And they were wondering, would there be any placements you would recommend them doing? So I'm not sure if you guys, during your own transition years, if you did transition year, were able to do any sort of pharmacy related work experience, or if there's anything you'd recommend looking into. Maybe not. No takers on that one.
Perfect, I didn't do anything related to pharmacy for 2 hours. Okay. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to have. Obviously, I guess if that's an area that you're interested in and you are able to get work experience in that field, I'd imagine it might be harder at the moment due to COVID, obviously, and limits on numbers and things like that in pharmacies or in hospitals. So obviously, if you can get that, I think great to give you an insight into the workplace, but I don't think it's a necessity in terms of studying pharmacy. So the next question is just wondering about placements. And the question is, during placement, do you get to experience community, hospital, and industry pharmacy, or only one or two? So again, Sarah, I might come to you. So you're on my screen there, so you're on my hit list. So yeah, can you explain a little bit about how the placement side of things works?
Yeah, so in second year, you have a chance to do placement, and it's well, for us anyways, it was every Tuesday for maybe 12 weeks or something. It got cut short because of COVID, but it's, once a week for a set number of weeks. Sorry, I can't remember, but it has to be in community. So you get your chance to do community then. And then fourth year, we just finished there. So it was from September to December, and you have a chance to do that anywhere you like. So industry, hospital, community, wherever. So that's a really good chance maybe to see something a bit different, because then fifth year, your placement runs from January to August, and it has to be in either community or hospital. So really your only chance to work in industry or research or something completely different is in fourth year, but you do get a chance to do hospital or community for fifth year.
Brilliant, thank you so much. That's great to know. There's a question here just wondering about personal statements during the application process. So Derek, I'm not sure if you are maybe applying as a non-EU student. If you are applying as a school leaver through the CAO, you're not required to complete a personal statement. If you're applying as a graduate, you may be asked to include one, but we are having a graduate and mature entry routes open day on Saturday. So feel free to check that out, because we'll have more information about that specific application process. And if you're applying as a non-EU student and you're wondering about your personal statement, we did have a session just before this at 10:45 on personal statements and interviews. So you'll be able to watch that back in the next couple of days. So if you did miss that, that will be made available, as will this session. So this session is being recorded and it will be made available. Here's another question. So do you find your own placement, or do you get support finding placement? So Franco, I might ask you that because you're in fourth year at the moment. You might speak about that process.
Yeah, was there any chance you could repeat that again? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. So do you find your own placement, or do you get support finding placement?
Well, there's an establishment called the APPEL, APPEL. I could get the exact what the exact initials stand for in a second, but at the top of my head, I'm not sure. Basically, it's an affiliation between the 3 schools of pharmacy in Ireland that help find and locate placements, and then the students apply through a portal on their website, and afterwards there's an interview process, and then you'll eventually get a placement. It sounds very complicated, but it's very simple. I think most pharmacies, and in Dublin anyways, all offer a placement, unless it's a small independent pharmacy, in which case the owner probably doesn't have time to actually keep a student in the store, just because they're probably understaffed and don't have the extra time. So it is quite simple. I think at the moment, what I had to do for my fourth year placements was select 3 locations that I'm comfortable with in Dublin where I'd want to do my placement. Then I'd set a radius for how much I'm willing to travel, and then they'd give me a list of pharmacies that I'd like to apply to. It depends on if it was either a community pharmacy, hospital, or if it was industry. But I was only interested in hospital and community. So I ended up selecting about, I think we'll just say 3 pharmacies, and I heard back from 2 and I accepted 1. So it's a very straightforward process. I think the third years have already done it at this point in time, and they're supposed to be getting offers in the next 4 weeks. And that's from a friend in Trinity. So I think that's where they're at the moment, but it's very easy to get a placement. As long as you're doing the work in college and keeping up with your exams, keeping your CV fresh, you'll have no trouble getting a placement.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for that insight there. So we're just coming towards the end now. I think we've about 3 or 4 minutes left to go. So I'll just see if there's any more, and apologies if we haven't managed to get to your question today, but do feel free to email us at admissions@rcsi.ie if we haven't. So someone's just wondering about the number of places. So for undergraduates, so for school leavers coming into pharmacy, we have a minimum of 30 places available each year. So that's a minimum. There may be some additional available, but that is the minimum at the moment. There are also, a number of alternative entry routes to pharmacy, which I think is important to keep in mind. You know, if you're unsuccessful in gaining a school leaver place, you know, there's definitely other ways. So for example, mature entry is available for those that are aged 23 years or over. There's graduate entry pharmacy, so that's for those who already hold an undergraduate degree. So for example, you could go and do an undergraduate degree in another discipline, perhaps general science, and you could come back then and apply for graduate entry pharmacy once you've graduated. And then there's pharmacy technician entry. So again, that's for those who've been working as a pharmacy technician and have a pharmacy technician qualification. So there are various other entry routes just to keep in mind in terms of entering the pharmacy program. There's a question here just wondering about studying abroad. So I'm not sure if any of you have participated at any of the you know, Erasmus programs or things like that. You know, it's probably been more difficult over recent years, but perhaps you might be able to speak on them. You might know people who have participated in those kind of programs.
There used to be before the whole COVID thing. There used to be it wasn't an exchange, but it was like a 4-week placement in a hospital in the US during the summer. So I think it was maybe 3 years ago when the last one took place. And I think if restrictions kind of eased, there could be a possibility maybe for the next year, the year after that, to kind of start it again. But I heard it was really good. I know 2 people that have done it, and they're really, really happy with it. So that's all the info I have.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And yeah, hopefully, you know, as hopefully things get under control in the near future with COVID, you know, all those things will be able to come back. So I think we've just 1 minute ago now, so I'll start to wrap up. There is just a question here coming in about what science you need to study in the Leaving Cert. So we did cover that a little bit before, and it is on our website, but you can check that out. But as of September 2022 entry, we will accept any lab science. So that's chemistry, biology, physics/chemistry, or agricultural science. But again, that's all outlined on our website and in the various CAO guides. So we're just finishing up now. We're just running out of time. So thank you everybody who's joined us today. Thank you so much for your engagement and asking your questions. And again, if we didn't get to your question, I do apologize, and please email us at admissions@rcsi.ie. Sarah, Franco, Robert, and Velin, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. It's been fantastic to learn more about studying pharmacy and what your life at RCSI is like. So we're deeply appreciative. Just a couple of things: if you do want to continue conversations with our students, there is a chat page on our website, which is rcsi.com/Dublin/chat. We'll take you to the chat page where you can interact with our current students. And we're also running a competition on our Instagram page today for those attending the open day. I believe the prize is some sort of voucher, so definitely enter that because if you're not in, you can't win. So our Instagram page is RCSI_student life. So check us out there and definitely enter because everyone's got a chance. So thank you all for joining us today. As I said, a recording of this will be made available in the next few days on our website. And please do keep in touch if you have any other questions. Again, our email is admissions@rcsi.ie. Once again, thank you to all the students for joining me. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the open day, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.